as my friends started getting like caught up in like going to prison as like young kids, I was having these moments where I was terrified that it would happen to me. And then, you know, fast forward, we're getting older, things are getting crazier, and then hanging out with my buddy just like any other, you know, night, and my buddy starts fighting with this dude. It's like a grown man. My buddy, we're like 16, and I end up in this group of these dudes beating on my buddy, and I remember like getting hit in the chest and just like getting, you know, dragged around, and that's when I see his hand go up like this, and he's got this cowboy shaving razor. He's like, "Look at your face," and my face was hanging open.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm AJ Pasciuti, a retired Marine, Force Recon, Scout Sniper, and Marine Gunner with 21 years of service, multiple combat tours, and a lifetime of lessons learned in the arena itself. On this show, I sit down with warriors from every front line to uncover what combat truly feels like and how it shapes the way we see life, each other, and ourselves. This is Combat Story. In this episode of Combat Story, we sit down with Michael D'Angelo, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who turned a turbulent childhood, military service, and hard-earned life lessons into a career built on laughter and connection. Raised in a rough environment where stability was never guaranteed, Michael found in the Marine Corps something he didn't have growing up: structure, purpose, and a way out. Serving as a Marine machine gunner, the Corps gave him direction and later perspective on both pain and resilience. After leaving the military, Michael found a new mission through comedy, using humor as a tool for healing, truth-telling, and connection. He went on to found the Rapid Fire Comedy Tour, bringing stand-up comedy directly to troops, veterans, and first responders across the country, meeting people where they are and reminding them that they're not alone. On this episode, we explore how the Marine Corps reshaped a young man searching for escape, how comedy became a second form of service, and why laughter might be one of the most underrated survival skills in the veteran community. While this episode doesn't focus on combat experiences, it stays true to our core mission of uplifting veteran voices and exploring the many paths of service after the uniform comes off. And fair warning, this one is absolutely hilarious. You don't want to miss it. Welcome to Combat Story. So everyone, welcome back to Combat Story. My name is AJ Pasciuti, and I'm sitting here with Michael D'Angelo, who is the founder and CEO and lead act within Rapid Fire Comedy Tour. I asked him to come on the show because I think he has a really compelling story, and I'm excited to see a story of resilience about why he joined the service, what he did inside the service, and then what he's doing now as a really great example for continuing to step back into the arena. And so with that, I'll introduce my new friend, Michael D'Angelo.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's good to come down to San Diego.
Yeah, sun is always shining in San Diego.
I love it down here.
Fantastic. With that, you know, my first question generally revolves around what was your story like before joining the Marine Corps? What led you to the idea to eventually raise your right hand and join the Marine Corps? Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, so the whole thing that brought me to the Marine Corps is it starts with my dad, really. My dad wasn't a patriot, was in the military, but in the year I was born, 1990, my dad was like, he's a successful businessman. He worked his ass off to create a construction company. He was doing well. And through a series of unfortunate events and my mom and him having some chaos in their marriage, he lost everything. And more than lost everything, he went below. He hit rock bottom, lost it all, and then just went down into the bedrock. And by 1995, we lost he had a big custom home out in the desert in Vegas, and he lost it. He lost the house, he lost his business, he lost everything, and he picked up a drug addiction. And him and my mom were just having that classical end of a marriage, just battle with one another. And it got to the point where, you know, she took off, and it was just kind of me and him for a long time. I have a sister who's a half sister, and she's 6 years older than me, so right around the time we lost everything, she kind of was old enough to take off on her own. Sure. So then it was just me and my dad, and basically I was with him through all of it, just through his addiction, through we lost everything, we homeless, a lot of uncertainty, just
how old were you
around.
At this time frame?
It's like first grade. Yeah, about first grade. I went to a different school every year from like kindergarten till I left and joined the Marines.
And this is all in the Vegas area itself?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I moved around Vegas a lot. And yeah, so it kind of brought me into this place where it was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of chaos, and watching adults deal with these like very serious problems that, you know, you shouldn't have to witness as a kid. But it brought me a lot of awareness and sought a lot of control in my life, because the people who were supposed to have things under control couldn't, and I was just watching it, like craving structure, craving like solution to all these issues and these problems, and why can't we get it together? But seeing it and understanding it as well, and I don't know if it was the situations that made me like this, or if that none of that would have happened and life would have been okay if I'd still have like this hypersensitivity. But I became like very independent. I grew up really quick and been doing my own laundry since I was 6 years old. Just like very not a I'm control freaks heavy. I've definitely found my balance in life, but at that age, very much a control freak of anything I could take control of, because there was no order anywhere. And yeah, I just couldn't. My dad, because he lost everything and he had so much, he was so successful. He became like this really angry, like just dark person, and not towards me. He didn't mentally or physically abuse me at all, but just being around him, everything set him off. He hated my mom. He hated God. He just lost it all, and he was mad. And I couldn't be at home. I was aware enough that I was like, I can't be around this. Like I can feel it when I'm at home. I feel his energy. And we were just like, poor, living in poverty. So I was out in the streets anyways, running around with kids and just being outside all day long. And it got to that point where I'm starting to come to that age where I don't really have any siblings around. I'm not at home. So I'm looking for that camaraderie. I'm looking for that kinship, that friendship in the streets. And by about middle school, I had kind of found my little group. We kind of had stuck to one general area of the city where me and my dad had ended up like living a lot. And because I'm around all these other poor kids and we're chaotic and my life's chaotic, we're, doing classic crazy kids. We're starting fires, we're breaking windows, we're stealing candy bars, shit like that. And as we got older, you get into like middle school and it evolves. You start getting into fights and stuff like that. And it just gets a little more like.
You're also not a small dude, right?
No. So that's another thing. I was until like 6 months before I joined the Marine Corps, I was like the little guy everywhere I went.
I could resonate with being the little guy thing.
I shot up, man. I was, that's part of the story. I used to get my ass whipped all the time. Like people I say, oh man, you like to fight. And first of all, I don't like to fight. I have been in a lot of fights, but I've never won one. I've just never, ever, like I've sparred and like, that's different. But like, as far as like getting into scraps with people, I've had my beat as a kid, like just because I was always a loudmouth talking and I just always had 2 cents for everything. And
I think it comes from being Italian. I think you and I kind of have
a little
that
bit of
same
that
gene where our mouth, write checks or can't
100%. My parents always used to say, because I would like I'd be out roughhouse with kids, I'd come back crying, and they'd be like, if you play with the bigger kids and you talk shit, like that just is what it is, man. Get used to it. But I started, getting into like more and more trouble with these guys, and in my head, because I was seeking structure as I grew up, I was always looking forward to like getting a job, earning money, getting like a financial security and like getting success, because I had seen my dad's success at a young age. I know what it looked like. I knew it was possible, and I craved that. I was like, oh, I can get to somewhere. I can get out of all this. The kids I was with, not that they didn't have those aspirations, but it just didn't seem that way. Maybe they were more in it for like the streets and more of like the coolness of like fighting and breaking the law and.
Do you think they were resigned to their future? Like
a little bit, yeah,
okay,
certainly. And it's hard to put that on them. A lot of them I don't stay in touch with anymore. And I, I don't want to like put them down. Maybe they did. Everybody's got a little bit of aspiration. People want better things for themselves. But in those moments, I certainly was aware that we didn't want the same things. Now they were like my brothers, like we were very close, and I loved these guys. But as like it started to progress, we got a little older. Like we went from like fighting each other and kids to like being in middle school and high school and fighting like grown men outside of bars, going from like just screwing around stealing candy bars to guys like stealing cars, guys starting to carry guns, guys starting to sell weed, starting to sell meth, like crazy. And I never did that. I didn't carry guns. I didn't steal cars, but I was riding around in the cars with them. I was hanging out with them. I was getting into fights with these guys. I was getting beat up with them everywhere. We get stopped by, we used to get stopped by gang unit all the time, and they would line us up and take pictures of us just to keep tabs on us and find out, if something came up, they knew who we were, where we went.
Did you identify, like, so I know that you said you had an example of what success in your mind or your family's mind looked like. Did you identify, was it like in the back of your mind when you were a child going and getting pictures with gang units, with cops or whatever, they're keeping tabs on you? You're like, man, I'm heading down a not good path? Or did it just seem like Was it too much fun and this is where you were at? Or was there like a conscious, like, I'm going down, there's like two paths, two roads diverge in a wood, right? Did you have that kind of thing in your mind, or was it just all fun?
Certainly. Yeah, no, and that's kind of where it comes to the head joining the military, because I was having these moments where certainly, whether it was from my mom being on drugs as me being, or her being pregnant with me or something like that, or just, growing up the way that I did, certainly addicted to the adrenaline and the excitement of it for sure. It was very exciting to get into all that action, young kid hormones and finding friends. It was just cool. It was fun. It was the thing. There weren't any podcasts. There was there was no background noise, so we had to do crazy. But I was aware of it. Like because my dad was in and out of jail. My mom went to prison. Our house got raided. Like I was very aware of like the police and the monopoly on violence and just the possibilities. And my dad hated jail. He'd always tell me, he's like, you don't ever, anybody that thinks going to jail is cool is a idiot. He's like, you do not want to go there. It's not cool. It's not fun. And as my friends started getting like caught up in, like, first we were young, so they got sent to like youth camps for like 9 months. And then they started going to like juvenile hall and then going to prison as like young kids. And I'm feeling it, and I keep getting let go, like, call it white privilege or whatever. Although I had white friends, a lot of my friends were like black and Asian kids and Mexican kids, but kids were getting like taken and arrested, and I kept getting let go. And a lot of it was my demeanor around the police, because I had like extreme amount of like deference for them. Like it was always yes, sir, no, sir, like that. And my friends would just like pop off at the mouth, just talking. I'm like, man, what are you doing, bro?
Hey, this may not be the best strategy.
Oh my God. And just seeing a lot of like police brutality on my friends as well. And I was having these moments where I was terrified that it would happen to me. And then, fast forward, we're getting older, things are getting crazier. And then, it was 4th of July, 2007, hanging out with my buddy, just like any other, night, holiday night. And we're drinking, 16 years old. We're like smoking weed. And a friend of mine is out in the street, and he's chaotic. He's one of my friends that loves to fight. And there's a car in the street that kind of stops. They're listening to loud music. My buddy's like talking in the street. They're kind of a little far up the street, and they're talking. And somebody gets out of the car, and it's like a grown man. My buddy, we're like 16.
Sure.
And my buddy starts fighting with this dude. And then all the doors open up on this car, and everybody gets out, and they surround my buddy. And I'm on like a wall in this apartment complex. And I hop the wall. I run down there thinking that everybody's coming with me.
Oh, no.
Because there's a big group of us. And I end up in this group of these dudes beating on my buddy. And I'm just like there's no plan. You just run into it. There's really no plan. And I remember like getting hit in the chest and just like getting, ragdolled around. And someone from our group ends up the street, and they put a gun to the chest of the guy that I'm fighting. And that's when I see his hand go up like this, and he's got a neon yellow handle in his hand. It's one of those old school straight razors, like cowboy shaving razors. He's like, look at your face. And my face was hanging open.
What?
I had no idea it happened so fast. No, I just sharp razor, adrenaline, no clue. I'm surprised he didn't get me in the neck or something, because I remember getting hit in the neck and the chest
So
a
this
lot.
is a grown man who hopped out of this car, who was beating on your friends. You hopped over. The cavalry really didn't come behind you. It was just you and your buddy in this kind of fight. And then all of a sudden, eventually the cavalry does show up, and then that kind of ceases thing.
Yeah, at that point, I realized my face hanging open, and I kind of I start going back up the street to there was a guy house. Again, like we spent a lot of time hanging around like adults, and this guy whose apartment was right there. I go in his apartment, and his wife is in there. And I'm like, he's got a big mirror in front of his kitchen sink, and I pull my hand off my face. I just see my face hanging open.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, oh God, this is like bad. Like I didn't think I was gonna die. Like I was aware, like it wasn't like it didn't hit an artery, It's just
sure.
Like,
but a face bleed, anything, any head trauma, bleeds a lot.
And it was like the most serious thing that had happened to me so far. And his wife brought me this rag, like a clean rag, to put on my face. And to this day, when I smell that detergent, I'm like right back there in the kitchen. It's crazy. Luckily, I don't smell it often, but every once in a while I'll be somewhere and I'll just be like, whoa, it's like a drug trip.
Yeah. Okay. Because memory emotion link, right? It takes you back once, through your nose, right? Like it takes you right back to that moment. So what, if I may ask, what were you feeling in that moment? When you smell that detergent now, and it takes you to that moment there, what do you feel? What did you feel then, and what do you feel now when you?
Then I felt terrified that my dad was going to be like that. My dad was going to like beat my ass that I had like let him down, because that was another thing. My dad gave me a lot of room to run a play. I mean, he had his own shit going on, so some of it was like a neglect in a way. Certainly there was a level to it, but also he would sit me down because he saw kind of what I was up to, and he knew, and he was like, he's like, listen, just be careful. Like, I know you're out there having fun, but just be careful. Like, don't f up. He's like, you're smart. Like you have something that I didn't have when I was a kid, and I can see it. He's like, keep your wits about you. Don't be getting too crazy. Like and I feel like I let him down. I was like, I did it. I finally like screwed, because I had a lot of close calls. There's a lot of shit where it could have been worse, getting arrested, going to jail. None of that shit ever happened to me. My friends were getting shot and crazy like that. Never happened to me. And then it happened, and I was like, oh no, I let him down. I did it. I blew it. And now, looking back, I feel like extreme amount of like luck and gratitude. Like, holy man, like it could have been so much worse.
That was your near miss.
Yeah.
Like that was your moment of like, hey, a couple inches different direction. A lot of life paths start to open and or close if that knife, comes across your face 2 inches up versus 2 inches down.
Yeah.
Was that the moment?
That was like a big pivoting moment. At that, like the next, me and my dad ended up moving to a different neighborhood. I still kind of hung out with those guys, but then like it happened like 2 blocks from my house too. And so we moved to a new neighborhood. And
did you have to go to the hospital and get stitches?
Yeah, I
and
got
all
32 stitches in my face. And it's funny, I didn't feel the razor, but I felt every one of those stitches. Oh man, that shit hurt so bad.
Like nice little reminder of like, this is not the path I want to be walking.
Yeah, that sucked. But that was like 4th of July, 2007. And that's when I started realizing, and even then, like it just got worse. More of my buddies going to jail, crazy happening, guys getting shot with their own gun, just like stupid. And I would still hang out with these guys. I would still go around them because I just didn't have anything else, and I couldn't be at home, and I just didn't have other friends, and I felt like a sense of camaraderie to them. And I realized, I was like, I have to get out of here. Like I have to get out of this town. It's going to happen. I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to die. It's going to be worse.
That sentence is going to run along long enough, and then there's going to be a period put on the end of that sentence, depending on which direction you go.
I could feel it. I could like feel and there was lots of that was like the one that I got caught, but there was like lots of like that going on a daily basis, just constant chaos, just constant close calls and crazy going on. And it was like exciting and thrilling, it was like
living on the edge, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And my life felt like kind of like one big up. Like it just I felt like all my, like, I not that I didn't have a future. Like I wanted success. I wanted, around that time I had like my second job. I got my first job a couple years before that. And I saved every check. I bought my first car. So I was having like this structure. I was getting a level of like accomplishment and success. But I was still caught in like just feeling like I'm going to be in Vegas forever, and I'm not going to be able to leave this environment.
Did you feel resentful at all of the kind of the hands that you were dealt? Not to use a gambling reference, but like, or was it something
not even resentful, more so like just kind of hopeless. Yeah, not even like angry about it or anything like that. Just more like a sadness towards it, especially because like, I don't know. I don't put it on my dad either, though. He made his choices and stuff and all that. And that's like a whole other rabbit hole you go down. But like, it made me feel like really like sad because of the contrast. Like my dad was like massively successful. I'm thinking like how far we had fallen and just like how like poor we were and just it was. And just that was another thing that really fucked me up is the hardest part, one of the hardest parts about my childhood was watching my dad struggle with like raising me in poverty. He hated it. It ruined him because he knew what he could have done, what we could have had, how I could have grown up. And it just wrecked him. And even to this day, like we can't have a phone call without him apologizing. And it's
so I was going to ask, right? As
yeah.
I mean, men have I'm not going to start going down the path of how tough white men have it in society or don't have it, but I think that there are some certain things that as a man, you want to be a provider for your family, a role model for your children, or an influence of some sort of, positive influence of the people that you surround yourself with. I was going to ask if you and your father have, dealt with that at the time, if you could see that. My father, Italian father, immigrant to the United States, was a truck driver. That was he was a long haul truck driver. And so his pathway towards, I would say, success was through me, was like making sure that the immigrant's dream was that I got a chance to go to college and I got a chance to live a better life than he did. And I remember in 2000, right in the .com era, because I'm from Northern California, he had saved up every one of his paychecks for decades that he had put into a college fund for me. And he had some like hedge fund manager or whatever it was, and they lost it all during the .com boom. And so my dad's like a blue collar, he was a peasant, kind of a field worker from Italy before he came to the United States. And I remember as a young adult, 17, 18 at that time frame, 16, he was like in tears, right? With me being like, it's all gone.
The opportunity, everything.
Everything that I had worked for to give my son a better, and I saw my dad cry, because I didn't understand it at the time. And I was like, I don't know that my grades were good enough to get into college. But in that same context, did you have that kind of realization with your dad when you were kind of going through it, or did this come later on?
There was like, there were some key points. I remember in like 1995, before we lost the house, when he came into my room one night as like, I'm like 5 years old, comes around me, he's crying. He goes, I'm sorry, I fucked up. We're going to lose everything. Yeah, it still fucks me up. That was like heavy for him to come in and be like, and say that to me in bed in the middle of the night and be like, I'm so sorry, we're going to lose everything. We're going to lose the house. It's over.
And how long did he have to sit with that before this, like, you're like, imagine him, like, I'm, not trying to overdo this, but I mean, I imagine like the conversation with yourself in the mirror before you got to go tell your son, right? That things are going to change.
Yeah. And just feeling like so like hope, like just so beaten by it and so upset that you think that you like have, between like your wife and just you don't have that, you don't have anything there, or you've reached the end of all your resources. Like, this is the point, you lost it all, that now you're going to go into your son's room and tell him, and he's a little boy. Like, you have to spill because it's coming.
Yeah. There's no hiding it anymore. There's no recovering from it.
Yeah. It's heavy. But once we lost it all, and then we just like bounced around from like other drug addict people's houses and just moving around, being homeless, living in the car, and just crazy, living in weeklies and all this. We didn't really, it was like survival mode for like 10 or 12 years, where like we didn't really address, there was no like heart to heart addressing anything. It just is what it is. And he like went from like owning this massive company and being successful to like having to go back into the union and work in the union every day and just back into backbreaking labor again. And it was just like, it is what it is. And we're just trying to survive now. And once I got older, after, now after like, once I left and joined the Marine Corps and all that, and we've had more conversations where, he tries to like make sense of it and explain things and break down like what exactly happened, because I have details. I witnessed a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of shit that, I just don't know that was going on in his head. But backtracking a little bit, 16 sliced open, and then I'm having this like fork in the road moment. I was like, I have to get out of here. I don't know what I'm going to do. And not that I'm like, I'm definitely one of those people that hates America. Like, I'm so grateful to have been born in this country and have all the opportunity that I have, but I've never been like a patriot or anything like that. And honestly, such a control freak as a young kid, to the idea of like giving that up to the military never would have crossed my mind. Never would have done that. But I was like, it's an exit. I can leave for 4 years. I can get out.
Sure.
And so
put a pause on this life.
Yeah. And escape.
And then escape right from it.
And the middle of my junior year, they let you out for winter break. I went to the office, got my transcripts, went up the street to community college, and I took my GED, and I got it like 2 weeks later, got the passed it. And I went to the Navy recruiting office, and I was like, hey, I want to be a SEAL or whatever.
Sure.
And they're like, yeah, we're not taking GEDs right now. I'm like, I just left high school to do this. I'm right next door to the Marine Corps office. I walk over there and I go, hey, what can I? And they're like, we can't take a GED, but we can send you, there's an adult ed school that we work with. We'll send you there, test you out all the subjects, basically get you another diploma that we can sign off on, and then you can join. So I did, pass everything. And they were like, have you taken the ASVAB? And I found out, I was like, I have no idea what that is. I found out like a couple years earlier at one of the schools I was going to, they were like, "Hey, does anybody want to take the ASVAB?" And I was like, "Oh, what is that?" They're like, "You'll miss periods 2, 4, and 6." I was like, "Yeah, let me
I'm
go."
in.
I go in this room for this ASVAB. I guess on the whole, I just, and then I put my head down and go to sleep. Found out I got like a 78.
All right.
Yeah. So they're like, "Yeah, we actually have scores here. You pass." I was like, "Sweet. What can I do?" And my original contract was for it was like I was supposed to leave in like September 15th of 2008, and it was for like motor T, had a sign-on bonus, active duty, all this. I was like, "Great, perfect." My dad was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, you really want to join the military?" I was like, "Yeah, it's I don't have enough. I have to get out
Yeah,
of here."
right. Running out of options, running out of runway on this side.
For real. I was like, "I gotta go." And so I signed up, and I told my recruiter, I was like, because I was still hanging out with these kids and just having all this crazy on. I was like, "Hey, if someone drops out of this delayed entry program, I'll fill a spot. Like, like, if you tell me right now, I don't need to check the paperwork signed. My dad's good. I can just go right now. I don't need to get anything."
It's really good you had the wherewithal to know, like, this is not only going to run into a period of an end of a sentence, it's doing it faster than I want it to. And to say, hey, like, if somebody drops out of the pool, I'll take that seat. Like, that's really, again, you're 17 years old at this time frame, and because your parents had to sign on it, right? That's huge, man, to have the wherewithal. So kudos to you on that. So continue.
Well, it was that eagerness and impatience that kind of f***ed me a little bit, because a spot did open, and he goes, "Hey, you can leave 20 days early. Someone fell out. You have to change your contract. You won't be a truck driver. You'll be a machine gunner." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool. Whatever." He goes, "You lose your sign-on bonus." I was like, "Oh, I don't give a f- about that." He goes, "And you got to be a reservist." I was like, "Well, what's that?" He goes, "Well, what'll happen is you'll go into boot camp, then you'll go into machine gunner school, and if you don't get recycled or held back, you'll check in with your unit here at Nellis Air Force Base in Vegas." I was like, "Oh, no. I want to leave. Like, I'm trying
Done,
to."
sir, done. I want out.
Yeah, and he goes, "Oh, well, what's awesome is you can just request to be active duty. You can put your paperwork in." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And he's like, "But it takes some time." And this is where he really like sweetened it up. He goes, "The unit you're supposed to check in with, if you don't get recycled in boot camp or machine gunner school, when you check in with your unit in February, they go to Iraq in like March." And I was like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "So you'll come home for like a couple weeks, then you'll go to Iraq, and before you leave to Iraq, you'll submit your paperwork for active duty." He just whipping up there. She's like, "Yeah, and then
Come on, recruiters.
yeah," and he goes, "You submit your paperwork, and then by the time you get home from deployment, your paperwork will have gone through. You'll be active duty. You won't have any downtime. You'll be out, or you'll be out in the fleet." I was like, "Done. Sign me up." So I go into boot camp. I go to machine gunner school. What's crazy is machine gunner school, they let us out for like 4 days for like Christmas. I come home. I hang out with those guys, and the night I hang out with them, a giant fight breaks out in this apartment complex. People are breaking bottles and crazy. It's just massive fight with tons of people in this apartment complex. All these Las Vegas Metropolitan police officers show up. We're right on the hood again, handcuffed up, and my buddies are just like talking to these cops, being wild again. And one of my buddies is like getting beat in handcuffs. It was I had to go to court and testify for this. That night, in the middle of all that, the cops are going through all our shit and looking at us, and I have my cat card on me. And this cop pulls me aside. They pull me away from the group, and he goes, like these two cops, and they're like, "What the f are you doing here?" And I go, "Oh, they're like, "You're a Marine?" I go, "Yeah, I just came home from machine gunner school. I'm just here for like a few days." And they go, "How do you know all these guys?" You go, "I used to hang out with them. I actually joined because I was trying to get away from it. I just thought I'd come home and see him for a couple of days." And he goes, "All these cops are Marines." He goes, "Get the f out of here and never hang out with these guys again." And that was it. That was the last time I saw all of them.
Are you serious?
And they let me go.
Wow. I mean, okay, so talk about like a homie hookup, right? Again, and so one of the things that I do love about the Marines is that it is, for better or worse, it is a cult, right? Like, we are a cult, and we very much take care of our own. We also hold our own accountable, but like in that moment of like looking out for you, of saying, dude, you like fix yourself right now, right? You've already made this commitment. You went to boot camp, you went to School of Infantry, right? You're an 0331. You've done everything that you need to do, like all the right steps to change your trajectory. And this one moment you go back, and then all of a sudden you get pulled over by this, this other Marine cop. And I love that he's like, had the wherewithal to kind of give you another chance and say, like, you've done all the right steps. Continue down this path. I'm not going to blow your entire trajectory up.
Yeah.
Like, but never let me see you again and never hang out with these guys again.
Yeah.
That's intense.
And it was a part of that luck thing of never having anything on my record because all those guys had like big rap sheets and I clean. So he looked at my sheet, he goes like, you shouldn't even, what are you doing? Like, this isn't you. Yeah. So go back to machine gunner school, finish up there. And I was like panicking towards the end of machine gunner school because I knew I was going to go home and check in with my unit. And I had made friends with a lot of guys. You know, you're getting everybody's getting your orders. Oh, you're going to Hawaii, you're going here. And a lot of my buddies were recon guys. And they were like, you know, when you get out of machine gunner school, they just like go to a different barracks. They're going to like Horno or something. They're just switching barracks right on Pendleton. And I became like, I got like heavy. I drank a lot in like middle school and high school. So like I didn't drink the whole time I was in machine gunner school. I didn't party. You know, I'm not religious or anything like that. So I became like a PT freak. And I was hanging out with all these recon guys. And I was like, oh man, this is high speed. I want to do all this. And they were like, you should just, because they knew that I was going to be a reservist. They knew I didn't want to be. They were like, you should just come try and check in. Like when we go, just bring your tell them you want to do it now. Like see if they can do your paperwork and make it happen. And
it's
so
like bring your sea bag with you, like puppy
right,
dog eyes your way
right.
in.
And I tried to talk to one of the recon instructors, and I was like, hey, is this possible like this? He's like, just go check in with your unit, start the paperwork, and that's how you got to do it, man. Yeah. And I go home, I check in, and like day one check in, I go, all right, I'd like to submit my paperwork for active duty, and they go, no. Like they're like nah. And I go well, my recruiter said
famous last words,
and they're like, yeah, no. They go, you have a billet here, you're here now, you're ours, your belongs right here, we need you here, that's why you're here. And I was like, okay, cool, sorry, all right, well, what about like this deployment? And they're like, they started their work up in November, you're not going on this deployment. And I'm just like, now I'm like, and I'm right back in Vegas,
and you're back in Vegas,
and I'm like, I'd like start like crashing out. I'm like, oh no,
the walls are closing in now.
All of that, like I just did all that, and now and it was
right
for
back
nothing.
To where I started.
So like I felt I was pissed. I was freaking out. I was like, I can't go active duty. Clearly I was bullshitted and I didn't know what to do. So I was and the people who were like, no, you can't do this. I was standing in the room with like the company first sergeant, the company commander. They're all there. So I'm like, the chain of command was there. There's nobody to talk to. So what do I do? So I wrote a letter to Senator Harry Reid. Yeah, like a idiot. I was like, basically like, hey, you know, I joined to like get out of Las Vegas and to try and go, you know, live a life and escape from where I'm at. And I'm healthy. I'm young. I just got out of machine gunner school. I want to go active duty. They're telling me I can't. My recruiter told me I could. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? Thinking that I'm going to get like orders in the mail or something, you know? He calls headquarters Marine Corps. He's like, hey, we got a Marine down here, said he's being treated unfairly. And then they called me into the office and they ripped me so hard. But what's funny is they f***ed up because they were supposed to let me submit. They could have denied it and lost the paperwork, sure, but they couldn't be like, no, you can't submit it. And they like backtrack. They all the same people in the office going, all the same people in the office going, who told you couldn't submit your paperwork? I'm like, you did. What are you talking about? Like looking around and like, and that like set the tone too. I was like, oh, is this what it's gonna be like? You guys are gonna lie, like bold-faced lie and me like this? And I just like it became like, then it became this game like, oh, you want to me? Cool. Like, and from there on out, like anytime I saw an opportunity to speak up and make mother look dumb, I did. Because I was like, one, I just like emotionally and like, you know, through, you know, joining and all that, like I realized that a lot of, you know, boot camp in particular, it's all like manufactured stress. And because I had come from such real stress, I was like relaxed.
I got 3 guaranteed meals a day. I know where I'm sleeping.
Oh my God. Like it was so crazy to me to like join and think it was going to be this hard thing and realize like we're getting 8 hours of sleep every night and we're going to get breakfast, we're going to get lunch, we're going to get dinner. Blew my mind. I was like, this is crazy. I was like in the most relaxed state I had been in the past 16 years of my life. It was wild. And it felt cool. I'm like, and this is how you become a Marine.
And
like
shoot guns at the end of this.
Oh my! It blew my mind. And when people would freak out, you know, crash out, the stress levels would get high, and I would like, I got in trouble for like not taking it seriously, for like cracking jokes and so I had this like mindset of like, I was already like, I was a PT stud, and I wasn't like afraid of like what were they going to do to me. So I just like took every opportunity I could to like back and you know, classically, I don't know what every reserve unit is like. A lot of people on the reserves, and there are some guys in there that are pieces of shit. I could sign off on that. But there's a lot of guys who they get out of active duty and they come into the reserve side on their timeout, and you meet a lot of like really good guys that have served and toured. And I connected with those guys hard, like really found like the guy I was talking about, Sergeant Katz. He's out now, but like a big brother to me. Like man, that dude's like given me knowledge and information and like made me feel ways about life that like I would have like gotten to that level, you know. And what was crazy is because it's a reserve unit and it's filled with, you know, this mixed match of like, you know, burnouts or people that don't really want to be a Marine and they're doing it for whatever reason. Then you have these guys that come in that, you know, did all these tours and are on the way out and they're just like finishing out their contract, kicking it with this reserve unit. Those guys saw me and like how hard I was working and how like I knew all my shit. I was trying to get into the fleet. I was motivated. I was taking care of my shit. I wasn't a fat body or anything like that. And those guys like loved me. Those were the guys that like pulled me in and told me like, yo, this unit, like they're these people are weird. Like this leadership does, but you're good. You're a good Marine, like, and validated me a lot. And so the people that like sucked and were constantly up hated me, but the people that were like worth their brought me in and like gave me a lot of validation and stuff. And I found like a happy medium between, you know, being a reservist in Las Vegas and I just like went to work. What most guys do. I got into like security and I started doing a lot of security. I got like 3 or 4 jobs, and because I was like, I came home and I didn't want to be around anybody. I was like, but I'm at least like an adult now. I just focus hard on like working and trying to keep busy and make money and like build a lifestyle for myself that got me out of like poverty. And
you're probably 20.
No, I checked in. I got my eagle globe and anchor on my 18th birthday.
Oh, no way.
I checked in with my unit when I was 18, and yeah, I ended up like working like tons of jobs in Vegas and drilling on the weekend once a month. The first time I got to like go anywhere, we went to Bridgeport for their mountain warfare training. We went in like June or something like that, but it was still like an kicker. But besides machine gunner school, it was like the first time that I got to do like some really good training after having checked with my unit, and it was awesome. Like,
and Bridgeport's phenomenal.
Oh my God.
A way to introduce yourself to yourself, right?
I was at that point, from like PTing myself, I like had become addicted to the pump, the endorphin. I was getting like high off smoking myself. So like just going up those mountains and like not just going up the mountain, but like circling it on the way up for days, just walking on the side of a mountain. And you know, I'm 18 years old. Like I felt like invincible. I felt so strong and powerful, and you learn all this survival, and it just like reinvigorated me for everything. And I started like submitting paperwork to go to schools. I was like, I want to go back to machine gun leaders course. I want to go do this. And they would like lose my paperwork. All the leadership in charge, they hated me. And they would other guys over too. That's the thing, is it wasn't just me. Like that leadership there was bad. And I've done enough podcasts now that I'm constantly on these guys. And you would think I'd be like, you know, there were some good things. No, those guys. There were good Marines in my unit, and it wasn't those mother.
And they were stifled by bad leadership.
Yeah. And which is, you know, classic. I'm sure every unit has a little bit of that. But the first time I got to leave the country, we went to Belize, went to Central America, and I'd never left the country before, let alone been in like a heavy humidity environment like that. And
you're from a dry heat.
Yeah, and I thrived. Like your joints and your skin and your lungs and like everything worked better. I realized like, oh, I love the jungle. In the civilian world, like nobody wants to be like muggy and sweaty all day. But when you're at work, especially like a labor shit like that, I'm operating at like 120, like pushing. I loved the jungle. It was amazing. I learned all that cool. And then when I got like my first real deployment, we went to Southeast Asia, and because I had already been to Belize, they put me in like this cool cadre platoon. I got to be in here with all these guys. I was like the lowest ranking guy, and it was all these like high speed sniper guys and guys from like high speed units and bull like that. And Southeast Asia was like incredible. Like the same thing. That was like the best case scenario for any deployment, because we weren't like in the mountains or in the desert. We were doing like marine, you know, getting on tracks and hitting beaches and just running up into the jungle in like Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, Thailand, like all these countries. We got to practice beach raids and it was incredible. It was amazing. And then from that deployment, I got lucky and they offered me to go to the Black Sea for another plane just to hop and go to another one right after. So I signed
And
up
so you were
for it.
still a reservist, but you were able to jump from that's one of the benefits of being a reservist.
That was the plan.
You can kind of continue to jump from deployment to deployment.
Yeah, I signed up for that one, and I got picked for it. And then when we got home, I was home for like a couple of weeks, and then went to Texas, and I started the workup for that one. Then my dad had a massive heart attack. He had open heart surgery, and he didn't have anybody, so I stayed home to help like rehab him and get him back. And so I missed that deployment. And it was around this time that my back started getting weird on me. And at first it was just like weird back, like, oh, I'm sore. Maybe I pulled a muscle or whatever. And that was one thing that I regret. And I try to like pass on to like young Marines is like, listen to your body and don't forget about recovery. Because in my head, I was like, that whole pain is weakness leaving the body, that like, it makes you feel really tough.
Yeah. It's a great slogan.
Holy, like, man, and you forget that like nobody, at that time, at least there was nobody there talking about recovery.
Yeah.
There was none of that.
No. That didn't really enter the military until I would say the late 13, 14s. That time frame started to kind of peak in.
And it started wearing down my body, and I just didn't know. And outside, because, I'm a reservist, and they're 1 week a month, 2 weeks out of the summer, and a deployment here and there. But on my spare time, I was like trying to stay ready and stay, because I kept submitting for schools. Like I wanted to try and go to MARSOC. I wanted to try and go do all this shit. And I was like, because I was getting high off the pump and shit, I prided myself off like my endurance for just being able to like bear it all and go. And it helped me stand out. A lot of guys like that and appreciated that. And I brought a lot of value to the shit that we did do. And I just wasn't listening to my body. And the first piece of advice I got was like, oh, just bed rest, just stop everything you're doing and take a couple of days off. And it got way, way worse. And my back started locking up on me. I started having spasms. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning, and it scared the out of me because I was like this super laborious person. Like my jobs that I was working, I would literally put all my work uniforms in my car, cans of food and make my lunch, underwear, socks, and I would leave my house and go work job to job and sleep in my truck between jobs and just work. And I was just grinding like that, and I couldn't do that anymore.
You went from like 60 to 0.
Yeah. And like feeling like I was pulling myself out of poverty, like I was getting somewhere, like, oh, it's working.
You're finally starting to climb. You're finally starting to move somewhere.
And I had like savings. I had like a nice amount of money, and now I can't work for like a month. And I'm like freaking out. And my dad's like, I watch my family deal with drug addiction. So I don't like take pain pills. I don't do any of that. So I'm like, I go into like deep depression. I'm freaking out. They keep sending me all these doctors. They won't give me a MRI. No one knows what's going on. They're like, oh, they just go, oh, you probably pulled something. It's just tight. Maybe this, maybe that. They're not being clear on what's going on. And after like 2 months of like struggling with this, and I start to like get a little bit of like, they take me to like a physical therapist. I start to get a little bit of relief, and I'm doing less, so it's getting better. But like the laying around, the stopping everything completely was it up, because one, my mind, but two, like the muscles that were having problems that needed like strengthening and rehab were not getting that. And when I went to physical therapy, sometimes it would help, but also it would flare it up and make it worse. For about a year, I'm dealing with this. And then my unit is like, what do you want to do? Like, we can give you a new job or you can get out. And at this point, I had like a bad taste in my mouth for my leadership. I was like, staying for what? Like to get over. So I was like, I'm out. Cut me out. So they med-septed me. And then I'm like still trying. I like had quit a couple of my jobs. At this point, I started like maybe a year before this, I started like a circuit training company. I was like training people for events, people that wanted to like increase their run times, or they wanted to do like a
Tough Mudder or something.
That kind of shit. I bought all this gear, tires, sledgehammers, all this shit, cones. I set up courses at parks and like run people through it. Basically like a CFT, like a combat fitness test.
Well, it sounds like you have this like incredible drive, like this like work ethic that is like, it really feels like to me you had so much energy, and the Marine Corps wouldn't focus it, right? Like the leadership that was there, I say all the time that energy without direction is chaos. And I find myself to be the same thing. If I have to sit on my hands for a month, I'll go crazy, right? And I have to keep moving. And it seems like you're a lot of the same way. And especially when you're driving towards this, like, I am trying not to repeat my past. I am trying to change the next, chapter of my life to something positive. And then all of a sudden, everything, the bottom falls out of it, for you. What was that transition like?
So yeah, it was like this scary transitioning moment where like I had to stop a couple of my jobs. I let that company go. I was like, well, I can't load all this gear up and do this shit anymore. And I was super fortunate. There was a guy I was doing security for. He's like he owned a casino in Vegas, and I stopped going to work. I stopped working for him for like a couple months, and he hit me up. He's like, "Where you been, Don? What's going on?" I was like, I can't stand on my feet for too long. Like I'm just like really bad sciatica. I'm walking with a limp. I'm in a lot of pain. I just can't. And he has really bad back problems. And he's like, I'm going to send you to my guy. I was like, I can't. He paid for like a year.
Are you serious?
For me to go to like this really good guy. And that physical therapist like changed my life, like taught me a lot of shit that like damn near fixed me and made me understand the injury a lot better. Let me know like you're going to have bad days no matter what. That's just going to happen. But this is how you take care of yourself, and this is what's really going on, and this is how you strengthen stuff, and this is what you did, and this is why, and this is the mechanic. Like broke it down and helped me, and did like a lot of like really good work, and just helped me be patient, and like brought me back almost to like 100% really fast. And it helped me. But in that like dark year of like freaking out, getting out, and not knowing what to do, and realizing I couldn't be laborious anymore, I was like, I'm going to have to get into like white collar shit. I have to get into like sales. Like I'm going to have to like figure out how to like talk to people. And like,
that would be I think I tell people that one of my favorite feelings in the world is like getting into a shower after a long day of hard work and then like looking down at my feet and having the water be brown from the dirt. Like,
satisfying.
Yeah. Like, yes, like I accomplished something. Right. And so I'm not dogging on blue collar versus white collar or white collar versus blue collar, but like I just feel like when there's dirt under my nails, right, and I'm tired or whatever it is. And so having to lose that, for me, it was like washing cami paint off. Like I love doing that, right? Like I know that I was doing something. And then again, 60 to 0, right? Saying, I can't do this anymore. My body physically can't hold up on this. And you're 24 at this time?
I was 23.
23.
That was scary. Like, and doctors were telling me, they were like, by the time I got my MRIs and they saw like I had like stenosis and retrolisthesis and bulging discs and all this shit, they were like, yeah, if you don't like slow down what you're doing, you'll be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30. Like you're going to lose bowel control one day. Like you're going to just cut those nerves off in your back. And I'm just like, holy dude.
If I can't, like the day that I can't wipe my own ass, just call it, man. Just like wheel me out to the desert and call it good.
It scared the out of me, and I went into like deep depression, and that's when I was like, I'm gonna have to find a way to work in like an office and and the only thing I think about with money wise is like I'll get into sales, but I was like, I don't know how to like talk to people like that. Like I talk to Marines and like a work environment, construction, yeah, it's easy, it's problem solving, do this, there's not a lot of emotions, a lot of logic, it's just boom. But when you're like selling to people, you got to like be able to like there's like a
mental judo and go through that.
And I was like,
and you're dealing with feelings and emotions and stuff. And
and I was not, and I've been like a numb person for most of my life because I shut all that shit down because it just that's how it was. Like not even consciously, just you don't even realize you've been numb for so long because that's just what your body did. It's not even conscious. You just shut it all off. But I was like, I got to figure out how to connect with people. And I've been writing for a long time. When I was a little kid, I used to write short stories and stuff, and I'd like to write. And because I grew up with my dad and bars and I've always, you hear jokes and you want to retell them and you write some of your own and just goofy, weird, crazy. I was like, I should take one of my notebooks and go to like an open mic and just like work on like talking in front of people, I was like, maybe that'll help me with like the nerves of.
So you were looking at sales, right? And so sales led you to say, maybe I should go to sit and see a stand-up comic and kind of like learn some of the dynamics back and forth.
I should go up and do it.
Oh, you are a glutton for punishment, my friend.
Yeah.
So the way that you're going to figure out how to do this is by like submitting yourself into this open mic and just, I can't wait.
I had gotten a little sales job, and when I was talking to people, I was like really nervous, and I couldn't be normal. It felt like I was trying too hard. And I was like, I should go to an open mic and just get the reps in of just like talking in front of people and just like it up. An open mic, there's no stakes. So I went to this little dive bar. It's called Meathead. It's gone now. It's a little Detroit Lions bar.
All of this tracks, by the way.
Yeah. And I found out years later that bar was like heavy in trafficking cocaine or some crazy shit. But
you're like, no wonder everyone was laughing at my jokes.
Yeah. Everything's coming together now.
Getting older hits you in these little ambushes you don't see coming. One day you wake up and the knees sound like you're stepping on a bag of pretzels. Recovery takes longer than the workout itself, and the hairline, well, it starts its own retrograde operation. I've felt all of that, especially after years of wear and tear overseas and in training, which is exactly why I'm obsessed with Bubs Naturals. Not because someone handed me a script, but because it actually helped me feel like I took some crown back. Most people don't realize this, but somewhere in your mid-20s, your body quietly starts producing less collagen every year. And collagen is basically the connective tissue of your life. It keeps your joints moving, your skin healthy, your hair and nails strong. Once it drops, you feel it. Bubs collagen peptides have been a way to rebuild some of what time, and in my case, the Marine Corps took out of me. My joints hurt less, recovery feels cleaner, and even small things like nails and skin look healthier. It's not magic, it's just replacing what your body stopped making. And it couldn't be easier. I throw 1 scoop into my morning coffee, it dissolves instantly. No grit, no taste, no weird science experiment texture, just coffee that happens to make me feel noticeably better. But here's where Bubs is different from every other supplement company out there. The entire brand is a tribute to Glenn "Bub" Doherty, a Navy SEAL who gave his life saving Americans in Benghazi. Glenn was the kind of guy who dedicated himself to lifting others up, and that ethos is the backbone of this company. They donate 10% of all profits to charity, starting with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. And they back up that legacy with standards most companies won't even attempt. No sugar, no fillers, no junk. Third-party tested, NSF certified for sport. If you want to live better longer, Bubs is giving our listeners 20% off for a limited time. Just head to bubsnaturals.com and use the code COMBAT at checkout. And after you order, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please make sure to tell them it was Combat Story. It genuinely supports the show and helps us keep bringing these conversations to you. And now, back to our show.
So I go, and what's crazy is all my life, all this crazy shit I've never been so scared that I almost pissed myself. Never. And I'm waiting to go up, and they're like, all right, 3 more than you. I'm like, I gotta take a piss. And I go piss. And I come back, and they're like, 2 more than you. And I'm watching the comic, and I'm like, damn, I gotta piss again. I go piss. And they're like, all right, you're next. And I'm like, damn, why do I gotta piss? And I go piss, and there's not a lot of piss. I'm just like, what's going on? And they call me up, and as I'm going on stage, I don't piss my pants, but as I'm going on stage, like while I'm on stage, I can feel myself. And the adrenaline dump is so hard that I'm just like, yo, like I've never been this nervous about anything before in my life. And I go up, and I didn't have like this amazing set. It was my first time. I did okay, but I come off stage with this adrenaline pump, and I'm just like, yo, that was legal. that was free. I'm not in trouble. Nobody's like, I like this now. Like I want to do more of this.
Okay, I have 78 more questions
Yeah,
for
go.
this. All right, so what was the crowd like right through this? Are they receptive? Are they paying attention? Are they biker bars? I'm imagining a lot of leather for some reason, right? Or is this, like I didn't know that like Sons of Anarchy liked comic shows, so I'm interested to see what the crowd was like.
It was like classic dive bar. It was a sports bar, so like the TVs are on, people are smoking inside. It's like there's
because you can at the time you could do that.
Yeah. There's still a lot of bars in Vegas you could smoke inside of. And that was like a lot of the Vegas comic scene too. Is like you'd come home after a show and you just have to burn your clothes.
Smell like an ashtray.
Oh my god, it was miserable. But yeah, it was sports fans, drunks, just people hanging out at the bar. It wasn't that night anyways. It wasn't like a rough crowd or anything like that. A lot of comics, typically open mics. It's mostly comics in there, and it was like the local scene at the time. As a comic, she's still doing it now. Her name's Angie Crum. She was hosting, and a couple other just weirdos and. And I got laughs. I actually have it on tape still. I still have the recording. Yeah, I got some laughs, and it was okay. It was like it wasn't scary. It was just like the nerves of like never having gotten up and done something like that before, and just in your brain the social stakes. That's that public speaking. The fear of death.
And you're in your hometown a little bit, right? At some level.
I actually had 3 of my friends there too. 3 of my friends came out. One of my Marine buddies and like 2 of my neighbors or friends of mine came out. And
that's a really good friend to be like, hey man, I'm going to try an open mic as a comedian. Can you come and watch? And you're like, oh god.
Well, so that was the thing is a lot of my buddies in the Marine Corps, when we were like talking, just out at the smoke pit or on the berm in the middle of the night and just not being able to sleep or on firewatch, just like talking like. I even now I do online, I do like these character monologues. Like I do stand up, but I do like these monologues. It's not necessarily supposed to be like comedy, but it's funny, but it's more just like this wild string of consciousness thought. And I would have these with my buddies, whether you're just on a hike, just trying to like keep your brain
like the
thinking
gallows humor,
Yes.
right? Like absolute stream of consciousness. I wanted to write, and you can have this idea. You can take it with you. I wanted to write a book. We used to joke about it when I was was a book that was called "I Can't Make This Shit Up," and it was just this collection of stories that would be way too far fetched to believe, but they actually happened. Because Marines on Monday morning, when they come back from whatever they were doing on the weekend, the stories these guys would have on whatever it was so fun. I always wanted to capture those and say, I don't know if this would really help the Marine image as a whole, but it would be really funny.
Great coffee table book.
Yeah, dude.
For real.
I can't make this shit up. So you can have that. You can patent that, take it with you, and do whatever you want.
Eventually, yeah, I do. I write a lot now. I write a lot of different styles too. I started seeing a woman a couple months ago, and for the first time in my life, I've been writing poetry.
Ooh.
And not to toot my horn, I'm pretty good at it.
Not to toot my own horn, but
I surprised myself. I was poetry. I never would have guessed that would be in my wheelhouse. But I write all kinds of shit now, and eventually, and everybody's like, "Oh, are you gonna write a book?" Maybe not, but like it would be some like that, like short, crazy stories from Marines and wild, some of my own, and just wild, because just not even from my own, just like that I remember guys telling me, just like.
Absolutely. Almost like I read a book on an airplane. It was called My Dad Says. And it was one of those things where I'm like reading a paperback on a flight to wherever, and I'm like cackling, like in the airplane. Everyone's listening, and then like I'm the dude, like everyone's like, what is this guy laughing at? I ended up getting in this conversation with like 3 or 4 people around me and almost like holding court, like reading this chat, excerpts from this book, that I eventually finished the book and then handed it to someone else on the flight and was like, hey, do me a favor, hand this to the next person on the next flight, because this is hilarious. So, and it was all just like his like weird father's escapades, and the things his dad said about whatever this kid growing up was like.
That's a lot of it too. I realized like I got a lot of my humor from my dad, and even to this day, like he's my biggest fan. I call him and run jokes on him all the time. But like I say sometimes, it's not even jokes, just I say around people sometimes. They go, "What is that?" I go, "Oh, my dad used to say that." They go, "What?"
Just like, do you have any like isms that carried over?
One thing I said, and this isn't even super funny, but one thing I said, I've said, and I realized like how like cool it was to think about. But my dad, because it was me and my dad, and he couldn't like leave me anywhere. I used to go a lot of places with him that you just can't bring a kid. And anytime we would go in somewhere, he'd go, "Listen, just act like you got a mustache." It was like just act like it, because my dad had a mustache growing up, and I just walk around just pretend like I'm supposed to be there, like that, man. He's always saying weird. So finished I finished that mic, and I'm having this moment where I'm like, okay, I realized after the open mic that, okay, I want to do this. Like I want to do some stand-up, like not like, oh, this is what I'm going to do, but like, I really like it. And as one of my buddies was at the show, that's what I was saying, is he was one of the guys that like told me, he's like, dude, you should do comedy one day. Like it's kind of a waste if you don't ever try it. And so it was like, it was reinforcing for him to be there at the show and come when I come off stage, he goes, dude, that was awesome. Like yeah. And I didn't have this crusher set, but just to have him be like, dude, that was cool. Like, I'm glad you did it. This is what you should be doing. And so I do it, and I get into sales, and I'm like, I'm making some money here and there. I end up leaving Vegas to go to Chicago. And this about 2 years, I'm doing like the open mic scene in Vegas, just having fun. And I go to Chicago to do some sales stuff for a family that I was doing security for. And they were like, hey, we see you want to like make some more money and stuff. You want to come to Chicago and live with us, and we'll get you in on some stuff, help you make some money. And I was like, that's awesome. And it was great. They brought me there, and I was making money. And while I was there, I went to this little club in Aurora, Illinois, right outside Chicago. And it's called the Comedy Shrine. It's kind of like a little museum, but it's also a club. And it was the first time, up until then, I had just done like bar rooms and weird open mics. Stop clicking that. It was the first time I had gone into a comedy club and gone up in a room where it was like, the comedy's in here, the bar is outside, the server comes in, there's no TVs on, it's like everybody's facing, it's like directing.
It's like high pressure situation.
Well, it's high pressure, but it's also exactly how comedy's supposed to be. Like when stand-up, like boom, the audience is here, they're here for comedy, that's what they're here for. And I go up and I crush.
Really?
And I was like, oh, this is what stand-up's supposed to be. Like, you're not competing with the sports TV and drunks. Like
some touchdowns happening, right? Or whatever, some plays going on.
Or like, just people don't give a in a bar. Like, a lot of times there's an open mic night. Like, half the people there are not there for it. They don't care at all.
They're there for the open bar.
It like reinvigorated me. I was like, oh, like it turned everything back on. I was like, I am like, not only do I like doing this, I'm pretty good. Like, okay, I can do this. I got this. There's something here. Fast forward, I get talked into doing some sales in NorCal where they're like, it's solar's blowing up. And people are like, oh man, the money's really good. And they show me the numbers. We get to just close deals. At the time I was getting really good. I was selling like life insurance. I was doing selling the kilowatt and the therm because energy was deregulated in Illinois. And I was getting good at like closing deals and like just explaining to people, making people feel comfortable with what they were doing. And I was like, oh, dude, I'll go make. And the money was like, the numbers they showed us were like really good. I was like, okay, I'll go to NorCal. And I didn't have any place to stay. So I went out there and I just lived in my car. But when I got there, there were no leads. You had to go knock on doors.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
All right.
So where in NorCal, do you want me asking?
I want to say like Rockford, like up,
like super northern California.
Yeah, up north. Yeah. So, and it's like summertime and I'm knocking on doors and it doesn't occur to me for like 2 months that I'm like, oh yeah, like I have a scar on my face and I'm knocking on people's doors. People ain't going to let me in their house. And I'm like,
your dark features, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a mustache at the time?
No, but my head was still shaved.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I look like a monster when my head's shaved. It's not good.
I'm not one to typecast people, but yeah, like having your head shaved with a giant scar on your face,
it's not good.
It may make some old biddies a little nervous to open the door.
I'm sitting in my car one day and I'm like eating canned ravioli with Ritz crackers, just like it's some sweating and shit. I'm getting like rejected. I haven't made a single sale, but I'm like just trying. I'm like, I'll figure it out. I'll get one. And I was like, man, like I know how to like work really hard. Like I got the discipline, I got the sacrifice. I wish I could like take this and do something that I enjoyed. And I was like, I should lean into stand up. I should like really try it. I think about all this time I've been writing and I'm, getting validated with that show I did in Aurora. And I was like, man, if I just like leaned into it, I could just get like a job somewhere and just every night work and figure out how to make money and just do stand up. So I started my car up. I drove back to Vegas. I quit everything I was doing. I got like a little retail job somewhere. And I just started doing stand up like every night, every bar show I could get on, every open mic, just writing and just working. And it evolved into, I started coming to LA because I was like, I want to take some writing classes. And I started taking classes on Tuesdays in LA. And a friend of mine, a comic in Vegas, was like, he found out, he's like, oh, you're driving to LA? He's like, I have a show Wednesday night at this, like, it's above a Hooters on Hollywood Boulevard. He's like, I'm getting 8 minutes. Do you want, I could maybe see if you can get on the show and split the time if you give me a ride. I was like, well, I'm going out on Tuesday for class, so I'm sleeping in my car. He's like, I'll sleep in the car with you. I don't give a
Yeah, I love that.
I was like, whatever, sure. I don't care, dude. So we drive out.
A lot like being in the Marines, right?
Yeah, I was like, been there, done that. Let's go, dude. We drive out Tuesday. I do my class, and Tuesday night we like hang out, and then we sleep. We drive out by like the train tracks, and we sleep by the train tracks. And the train comes by so often that eventually it stops coming by, and we wake up. And we're like, where's the train?
It was like that rhythmic thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And,
yeah.
the rhythm stops.
The next night we go to this Hooters, and it's like this little, it's upstairs, but it's like this underground comedy show, and that like it's independent show. It's run by like this guy named Stephen Holloman and like a group of other comics, and they're barking people in right off Hollywood Boulevard, bringing them upstairs for this show. And I go up.
Wait, what's barking people in? Is that like literally like you're like,
you're
hey,
on the street? It's a comedy show tonight. You guys like stand up? You visiting in town? Where are you guys visiting from? You want to come and watch a show? It's a free show. You come in. We got beers, cheap beers. You guys, you talk them into coming up.
I have a lot of questions about the industry, and so I'd love to get into that at some point as well.
I geek out on all this shit, so I talk for hours about it. I do the set. It's really cool. I like the show, and like I'm in LA, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like this little show, this is cool that they're running this system, and they have like this room up here. It's independent. And the guy who was running it, I went up to him, I was like, hey man, this is awesome. Like I'm in town already on Tuesdays. I could stay over one night and I'll help you with the show. I'll bark and help. I would just want some stage time, just trying to like get a little bit of development. Yeah, extreme, like vicious hunger to get better and grow, especially now because I quit everything and I want to get better at this.
There's something to be said about that. When you jump from one lily pad and you don't have another one to get to, like there is a little bit of, I don't know if it's science or not, but like there's a reality to it of like, you have to succeed. Like there is no other option for you. It's like falling into the pond is the only other option. I like that because it almost, was it something that you consciously did when you're like, I'm going to quit everything else to make sure that I can focus solely on this because I need to do this? Because if I have other things, then maybe I
pull you away.
Yeah, pull you away.
It's hard to like spend all your nights in a bar all night and then try to like focus on like a sales job and like growing that and learning information on whatever you're selling, and like showing up clean and fresh and well rested so that you can have professional
Have your
conversation.
ashtray clothes that you're in the bar with, right?
Yeah.
And then your like sales clothes.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to try and balance both. I'm going to lean all the way in. And so for a year, I would drive out, do my class. I started taking like writing classes, or I was doing the writing class. I started taking improv classes, and Tuesdays and Wednesdays I was just in LA. And for a year I did that. And a lot of the nights so on Tuesday nights I didn't have a show. I started coming 3 days at a time because Mondays is the open mic at the Comedy Store. So I was there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I was spending a lot of nights sitting in the back of the OR, the original room at the Comedy Store, watching guys that at the time, this was like 2015, 2016, watching these guys that are now like big name, Theo Vaughn and Hinchcliffe and many other guys work these late night crowds in the OR and just seeing what's possible with stand up. Like I've been watching stand up, been listening to it, but like seeing it live in the room for many nights, just sitting in the back. And I realized, I go, I have to move here. Like if I want to get better, if you really want to get better, I'd kind of hit my open micer ceiling in Vegas. Did the barroom thing. I was like, I get it. I want to be a club comic. I want to get better. I want these crowds that are like diverse and focused and in a zone for comedy.
So you mentioned that they kind of had this like it factor or specific comics. Is there like a formula that in your own mind that you put together that you think is like, okay, they've got stage personality, they've got good writing, they've got whatever, good hair, or whatever the thing is that puts them into a place that allows them? Or does each person have their own kind of, shtick or their own kind of draw? Is there something that you can see that you can identify with people like, I want to do that, I want to take that, I want to do that?
There is definitely formula to some people. There is certainly a thing like it's, a rhythm or a cadence, a predictability, a pattern, which can be to a detriment, if you ask me, because comedy is about surprise. And there is certainly formula and rhythm. And even early on, there was people that I looked to like Anthony Jeselnik, dark, really like written stuff. And I'm though I like to screw around and riff, and I'm very written. I write things and I want to try them and I want to work them out and figure them out and figure out the word economy and the cadence and the delivery and the timing and the pauses. Like I am a writer for sure. But that can be to a detriment. In the beginning, you're doing an impression of who you like, your heroes. I sounded a lot like Jeselnik because I like, I'm Marine barroom comic. A lot of my shit was just dark and weird already. And I was writing. So there is a pattern, but there's no one way to do it. And not everybody has a pattern either. Some guys are really just all over the place and chaotic. The more you watch it and like the more time you spend around it, you see everybody has a style and a voice, and that can be considered a pattern. But there's nothing you can really put your finger on. It's like, oh, he has this, like he's doing that. There's things you can point to and be like, that makes him unique. But what makes it funny, that's anybody's guess. And for a long time, I struggle with that too. I would do sets and I'd be like, I get that they're laughing, but like for like the first 8 years, I would get off stage and I'd be like, I got him, but I don't know how I did it really. I'm not really sure. I tried and I got him, but like, I don't know if I could do it again. Like I just don't know. So I was like, I got to move. I got to come here. And at the time I owned like a small condo in Vegas and I was paying my mortgage there. And I was like, well, if I move to LA, I'm not going to pay my mortgage in Vegas, pay rent in LA. And I don't want to live with 10 people. It's like, I'm just going to live in my car.
And old trusty.
Yeah, I was like, I live in my car, and it was great because
I thought about a van at some point.
That was like the goal. I was like, one day I'll get a van because it was a Toyota Prius. Yeah, it was like a little Prius, small.
I guess okay. So super tough Marine machine gunner living in a Prius on the mean streets of LA. What color was the Prius?
White. Yeah, white one, white with black wheels.
Did you have the murdered out wheels at least?
Yeah. Murdered out. Yeah,
life,
black
right.
on white. It was nice. And what's cool about the Prius is it because it's a hybrid, it can run off the battery. So if you're in the summer or the winter, you set the climate to whatever you want inside and it'll run off the battery. When the battery gets low, it'll automatically turn on the engine, charge the battery up, and then shut the engine
Great
off.
for sleeping.
Excellent. By the fourth year though, it would like the engine kicking on would like, it was my sleep up pretty bad. But it's like, I'm going to live in my car. So I set up my because wasn't
I
like,
like how that's plan number one always. It's just like I'm gonna live in my car.
well, it was like it was cool because I was like expecting it versus people that like lose their place and they don't have an option. Like I ended up in my car. It's like, no, I set my bedding up. Like I got everything set up the way I want. And I come out, and 4 days after I moved there, I got hired as a door guy at the Hollywood Improv. Yeah, and it was like, it was everything was like, I mean, perfect. I move out there. I'm a door guy at a comedy club, and even though they didn't really have, there's like I could get into like a really deep thing. There's three major clubs in Hollywood. There's the Laugh Factory, the Improv, and the Comedy Store. The Comedy Store is the only one that has like a surefire development program. They have a farming system that if you're a door guy there, they develop you. You get these spots on these big shows that test you and make you work.
See if you're up to snuff.
Right. And help you grow as a comic and put you in front of a lot of industry and a lot of other big comics. Then you have opportunities to get taken by the hand and brought up a level further. The Improv didn't really have that, but they're still a great comedy club. And I got to watch a lot of comedy because I'm in the back of the room, meeting a lot of comics, seeing good comics get bad crowds, seeing good comics get great crowds and elevating them and watching people play and styles and how to do things wrong, how to do them right. It was amazing. So now I'm doing that and I'm helping produce this little Hooters show. And what's crazy about the Hooters show is when I first went there, it was just like a group of guys having fun, drinking, partying, running the show. And I show up like super focused and super like ready to work.
This is your mission.
And I didn't take over the show by any means, but I definitely brought another energy to it. And the guy who ran it saw it, and he also like wanted to be better and grow. So we kind of like started to mold this show into like, it became like even better and better. Every week we would like build out something different, whether it was like a better stage, we'd put up new curtains, black out the room a certain way, set up tables, seating a certain way. And the street team, like really perfecting the system. A lot of things came together because I was working at the Improv. I got to meet a guy. His name is Todd Glass. He's an old head. He hate that I say he's old. He's not that old. But
Sorry, Todd.
But he's been in the game a long time, and he's like one of these guys that is, he's very funny and he's very meticulous. Some people would call it OCD. But he's very meticulous about how to do things when you're producing a show because he does a one-man show with a band and he like creates this environment. And I learned something from him. And the first time he had a show at the Improv, I was the door guy in the room and I just watched all the shit he was doing that nobody else really does. And I was like, oh, whoa. And I started to talk with him about it and he kind of pulled me under his wing. And he now for like the past 6-7 years, anytime he does a big show in LA, he hires me and brings me on to help him produce it because I like clicked with him.
Correct. You have that same kind of eye, or at least the same, I would say, meticulous, like attention to detail. I found that as a sniper, the thing that I was trying to do was not always, I mean, yes, I wanted to have a single well-aimed shot wherever I wanted to. I was trying to control as many variables as I could. And then once I could control the multitude of variables, I understood that there was a little bit of chaos that just life brings inside of there. But why do anything less than give myself the best chance of success? And so I think that I identify with people like that I meet in life, anywhere else, that like you can want to be successful and then you can work to be successful. And I think that working to be successful is very, very different when I can identify somebody that has that drive, that attention to detail. We may disagree on sometimes how or the end, but I can agree on the hustle, right? And take that under my wing. And so what's this gentleman's name? The old head?
Todd Glass. So I learned a lot about like how to finesse a room as far as like getting it together. Really, the thing he really taught me is how to train an audience.
Yeah, okay.
And it's powerful because like, particularly for independent shows, right? A comedy club, a lot of the stops are pulled out, right? It's this big name club. It's already got, a vibe. There's a door guy. There's pre-show music. It's set up.
There's kind of a hype, yeah.
Right. But when you're doing independent shows, it's chaos. It's dirty bar rooms. There's no door guy. It's people coming in randomly. And with this Hooters show that we were doing, they had like a street team. So we'd bark people up. Hey, you guys want to come to the show? But there's a big difference from going, you guys free comedy night? You want to come in? Cool. Right upstairs. And then people just sit down in the chair and they're like, oh, and now we're just in this room upstairs above a Hooters. Versus like, if you're out on the street, you're talking to somebody, he goes, you guys like stand-up comedy? You want to come to a show? And they go, oh yeah. I said, cool. Are you guys visiting? You local? Where you from? Oh, cool. Who's your favorite comic? You're like getting in their head. You're screening them. Are these people really drunk? Are they really foreign? Are they going to understand what's going on? Are they like cool people? They think they're too cool for school. Instead of just shooting them up there, you kind of figure out nah, maybe we don't want them in, and you kind of like shoo people away, or you bring them in and then you're bringing them upstairs, right?
And then you establish a relationship with them.
Right. You make them feel good. They feel like confident, comfortable. They're not like just talking to some guy who's like kind of drunk or whatever that's just trying to get you into this show. And then as you get them in the building and you start going up the stairs, you lower your voice. You're like, all right, guys, so what I'm going to do is at the top of the stairs, Sid is up there. I'm going to pass you.
You're making it a spectacle.
Right. And now in their head, they realize, oh, we have to be quiet. He's talking to us quiet.
Quiet coyote over here.
Yeah. Versus like get up there, you're just talking to your regular speaking voice. All right, enjoy the show.
Yeah.
They get up there, and then the room itself, we had like transformed this like little space above a Hooters with these curtains. We put candles on the table. We dim it down. Like the seating's tight. You get up there, and I pass you off to somebody. I go, Sid's going to help you guys find some seats. Enjoy the show. Sid goes, how many in your part? 2? Fucking boom. Versus just like, yeah, free for all, sit wherever you want.
Yeah, right.
By the time they get in their seat, they're like, oh, this is like a show. This is an experience.
This is real.
Yeah. And it's transports them. It puts them in a better mindset to witness comedy so that by the time the show starts, there's less variables, less chaos.
You don't have some random drunk heckler because you didn't screen him enough on the way up, and then you brought this like degenerate up who's just going to yell at you and ruin the energy for the set. Because I've been in shows like that where there's just some random. I've also been that guy before. I also don't drink anymore because of that. But where I'm like the heckler, and like, nope, the comedian can't find his footing. He can't get his rhythm right, and the crowd is like, get this dude out of here, right? And like. There's really, and it just kills the entire vibe of the whole thing.
And it screws up a lot of things. It screws it up for the performer. It screws it up for the audience, and it screws it up for the staff because if people aren't having a good time, they're not buying drinks.
There's
Staff's
no
not
tips
making
coming
money.
in there.
So you just it fucks everything up if you don't do it correctly. So I'm learning all this stuff from Todd at the Improv. I'm helping produce this independent show, and this independent show is getting very popular. Like we are crushing it in the open mic scene. We're running like one of the best shows on the scene. And so I moved to LA and like everything's happening. I'm running like one of the number one independent shows. I'm a door guy at the Improv. I'm living in my car. I would get off work at like 3 a.m. sometimes and I'd stand out on Melrose and I'd be like, dude, I'm doing it. This is where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is it. And then, you have random stuff. And one night I got in my car and it was late and I was like going to brush my teeth and I reached in my backseat for a bottle of water and I took a drink and it was my piss. I was like, I don't know if I'm doing it, man. I don't know.
There are levels of doing it, but I think that you have really like just dove into it. That's what I'm getting from your story and kind of who you are as a person is, again, it's a lot of energy. And if you find direction, it's full send, right? Like I'm going to go through that wall. I don't care. And I think that that's really, really inspiring, especially for someone who having had to leave the service, right? And as we talked about, pre-interview was the ego death that kind of happens when leaving the Marine Corps or leaving the military service. So you have this thing as to what you are, who you are. You got your little piece of tin on your collar and your camouflage, and you had to work really, really hard to do those things. And then you step into civilian life. And not only do most people not know what that means, and B, if they do know, most of them don't really give a right? They don't really care about all the stuff that you had to take to become, a machine gunner, right? To now all of a sudden having to put all that behind and say, one, I'm selling you solar, right? Or trying to sell you solar, or B, now I'm trying to sell you me as a comedian. Like, how vulnerable was that coming like from being a Marine, and now you're stepping on stage with none of the body armor on, none of the fatigues, no gun. What was that like, stepping into that?
It was, it felt very like, for the lack of a better phrase, it felt very soft. Like it felt very, like going from bull in the china shop to being able to just muscle your way through everything and into anything and being able to solve problems with like direct confrontation and brute force and hard logic, to just like having to be like gently introduce your ideas and thoughts to people. And like, still, it took me a while. Like in my first few years in comedy, I was like very rough around the edges. I was very abrasive, and it took a lot of like, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of like, when you're single for a long time and then you meet a woman and it's tough because like you really like this girl and you really want to be with her so bad, but like you do that like hurts her feelings or upsets her, and not on purpose, but you just have all these tendencies and you realize like, oh, like I'm gonna this up if I don't like be a little more aware and slow down and soften up a bit. It doesn't mean you're not still hard and capable and badass, but like in this moment, what's important is to slow down and be soft, and don't let that need to like problem solve and muscle through it, and this, I got it, and don't and to just like, make sense of everything. And
You were describing me like, Sarah, I apologize. Did Sarah talk to you? Did she put you up to this?
I'm going through some women right now, if I'm being 100% honest. Yeah. So it was hard to like to bring myself into this place of like call it the civilian world, but also the world of art, and like, a cultural thing where, there's art crowds, and that's kind of what I'm going to get into, that do respond really well to that more abrasive thing. But as I did want to get better and be able to do these club crowds, it was a very like vulnerable, like softening and awareness of how I'm making other people feel. Whereas before, I didn't like take into account a lot of people's feelings at all. And it was partially because I felt like mine never got taken into account. So it's like,
why would I do anybody else's,
no,
right?
things operate faster, cleaner, and it's easier. Like when we don't, I've seen people get emotional, weird, and typical in times, coming not just from the military, but in my childhood, like there wasn't a lot of room for emotion. There's not, you get emotional, then you're probably breaking, or something's wrong, or
and you're wasting energy.
Yeah, and you're like, you're gonna piss people off. You're gonna make the situation worse if you let emotions come into it. And I had to figure out how to like let the emotions like come out, and to not even let mine come out, but to be able to see it in others and take it and use it. If that makes sense.
It does. So what is the difference between, you mentioned good crowds and bad crowds? Like what defines, and how early do you know? And sorry, 3 questions. So like, what defines a good crowd versus a bad crowd? How early do you know in a set, and what can you do to like change that if you recognize it's a bad crowd?
A good crowd is a playful crowd that is aware that it's a comedy show. Maybe they're a little drunk, a little, I think that's part of the business model. Stand-up comedy is people that are in the crowd, and they're paying that 2-item minimum, but it's a playful crowd that knows they're there for comedy. We call it in stand-up, we call it, they came to like, you go to a club, typically 9 times out of 10, you go to a comedy club on any night of the week, 8 p.m., 10 p.m. show. When you get on stage in front of that crowd, those people got dressed, probably went out and had dinner, sat in traffic, maybe valeted their car. They're here, they're paying a 2-item minimum. They want to laugh.
Big investment.
Yes, they came out for it. They are there for it. So typically that should be a good crowd right there. You don't have to stress yourself out. Will they like me? Will they like this? No. They're there for comedy. They want to see you win. They want to have a good time. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you get a crowd that's, nowadays, especially, politics comes into play. So they're left, and you start talking right, you lose them. They're right, you start talking left, you lose them. It's a heavy woman crowd. You start being a little too much of a brute about stuff, or, telling too many guy stories, you lose them. They're a big guy crowd, and you start talking about they want a little more like chaos and filth and dirty, and you're edges, talking about, I was at Sprint today, and they're like, that's not what we're here for, so it's like, it's relative, but I think the sure sign of a bad crowd is a bad venue, because they were trained wrong. They got brought in. The door guy was weird to them. The room's too hot.
I love the ownership on that, though. Like, that's really strong of you to give the ownership. Like, if we didn't set the precedence early for you, it's some of that onus is on us. I think that's really, really strong, because I've heard it's just very easy to blame, crowd tonight,
No, I feel like especially nowadays, stand-up is bigger than it's ever been. By the time someone sits down in a seat at a comedy club, they're pretty open-minded. Okay. They're pretty there to try. They want to. But if everything's wrong, the seating is weird and uncomfortable. I go to clubs sometimes where the stage is right here and their chair is facing this way. They have to watch the stage like this. I'm like, what kind of is that, man? Oh, it pisses me off so bad. So there's that kind of stuff, but being able to fix it is literally in your material, and there's like 100 ways to skin that, but it's like, address it. A lot of comics, one thing I'm not super strong at, but a lot of comics are very good at like addressing the room itself. Like they'll get on stage and their first like couple minutes, I always call it the scramble, like the first 30 minutes, 30 seconds to a minute. It's like the first time you get into a fight with someone or you start hooking up with a girl. It's like
You're sizing each other up.
you don't know, and
Mhm.
it's kind of, you try to make sense of it, and you might pick it up, and okay, it's good. I clicked my teeth on your teeth, like that. And a lot of comics are really good at like, talking about the room, like give it this curtain in this room. It looks like we're in a dungeon, or shit like that, or front row, and you kind of like you kind of play with them a little bit. A lot of it is also one big thing that can be really helpful is getting to a show early and sitting and watching a couple comics before you and getting a look at the crowd. What I love to do is I like to look at the crowd before I go up and like just see what's the front row look like, who's not laughing at all, who's like laughing a lot, where's the heckler, who's already been asked a bunch of questions, who's been made fun of a bunch already. Just kind of gives you a little perspective, so you just, it gives you like a little bit of a direction and what to expect and choices that you can make, choices not to make.
God, you have to think on your feet so quick. It's problem solving, right?
That's what it is. It's like high level problem solving, high stakes,
high fidelity,
social,
like right now, sink or swim.
Yes. But so going back, I come to LA, I'm doing all these great things and it's great. But one thing that's happening because of my style of comedy, I'm not getting like embraced in the comedy scene at all. I'm super lucky that my buddy Steven is letting me help him with this show and it's thriving. It's going well. I get like some spots here and there, but like I'm a straight, white, confident dude. I'm not exactly what they're looking for. It's not an excuse. I could still get work. A lot of it was I just wasn't super funny either. I was still new in comedy. I kind of sucked. I was good, but I wasn't great. And the competition, it's LA, so there's a lot of really good people. So I'm just not getting the stage time I want. And I kind of had this moment where I'm like, damn, like I came out here to develop, but I'm not getting stage time. What am I gonna do? Like, and at this time, Rogan, this is like 2017. Rogan's like the thing, it's the Comedy Store is chaos. And I'm like comparing myself to everybody, and I go, all right, like, these guys have all these audiences, they have all these demographics, like who likes me? Like, who am I supposed to be performing for? And I start to remember all my buddies in the military that were like, yo, dude, you should do comedy. Like, if you don't become a comic, you're wasting your life. And I was like, all right, maybe some military shows. So I reach out to like the USO and Armed Force Entertainment, GIs of Comedy, all these guys. Hey, I love that I'm doing comedy. I love to blah, blah, blah. And they all hit me with the same reply. Oh, yeah, we'll keep you in mind. Da, da, da. They all got their good old boys club already. It's how it works. And I was still super new, who am I? But I was like, well, that hunger and that drive, I was like, well, let's shoot into this wall. I bet I could get through it, And I was like, I'm going to send letters out. I went online and I found a bunch of addresses for Marine Corps units. And I was like, I'm going to send. So I sent 400 letters out.
What?
To units all over the country, really, but mainly targeting Southern California, being like, hey, I'm a Marine. I'm a comedian. I'll come out and perform for you guys anytime, any place for free. Because I already had the gear. Because there's another thing, when I got to LA trying to get stage time, I bought a little mobile speaker and a stool and a mic stand, XLR cable, and I would go out to Santa Monica and Venice and I would just busk. I would just to get time, just to like.
Wait, what's busking?
Like you out on the street
on a
talking
corner
into a mic. Yeah.
No
yeah,
way.
As an entertainer, just like people do music, people are selling
like Muscle
shit.
Beach kind of thing. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, just out there because you could do as much time as you want. You run through everything and you get to. And honestly, next week I'm gonna go down there and do it again.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because I'm at a place right now where I'm trying to come up with some new stuff, and I'm reworking a lot of old stuff and like finding new tags, which is great. Feels really good to like expand on stuff and find more meat. But I want to come up with new shit. And sometimes you just gotta sit on the mic with nothing and just talk about your day or just feelings and thoughts with no pressure of like having to do well. And when you go to an open mic, you're getting like 5 minutes, 3 minutes in LA.
So you got to have some stuff pretty well honed down through that.
Yeah. But when you go busk, you get time to just kind of just talk and just you'd be surprised yourself what you come up with. When I moved to LA, I was doing that a lot. Had the equipment. So I was
the
like,
guts to sit on a stool, in Santa Monica at Muscle Beach, right? And
dude,
just rap.
In Venice, I've had people
Venice,
spit on me, try and fight me, scream in my face.
Why? Well, it's Venice.
It's Venice. And there you go. Yeah, it's the question. It's Venice. Yeah. Which is why I ended up doing it in Santa Monica. I was only in Venice for a few weeks. I was like,
less aggressive crowd in Santa Monica.
Even in Santa Monica, people come get my face and go, I hate you. And I'm like, whoa, dude. And then literally 5 minutes later, people walk by and go, you're amazing. When could we come to one of your shows? And I was like, you cannot.
slew of emotions that
Yeah,
I'm going
for
through.
real. So I sent all those letters out, and I got the first show. A unit hit me up, and it was Cinco de Mayo, 2018, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't bring anybody with me. I went alone. I didn't bring any comics. I was like, this could go like south. This could be bad. It could get canceled. I'm driving 2 hours down south. I'll just go alone and see how it goes. So I went out and I did 45 minutes for like 250 Marines, and they treated me like I was Dave Chappelle, dude. And I was like, oh, it clicked hard. I was like, this is my crowd. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I get chills now thinking about it. This is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just started sending more letters out and doing more shows. And I started bringing buddies along, and it turned into this thing where I would like rent a van and load it up with like 9 comics, because I'm in LA. So I have access to all these comedians and like big names, sure. But we're doing the shows for free. It's kind of hard to talk big names into coming in. But I have all these peers and shit that are like, they're good and they're hungry. They're like young, they're unknown. And I get to tap these guys on the shoulder and go, hey man, you want to get in a van on Friday and go down to San Diego?
That's kind of punk rock, actually,
bro,
dude.
I'm telling you, you want to do 10 minutes for 200 Marines on Friday?
Yeah.
And the guys are like if someone would have told that to me, I'd have my pants. I'd have been like, what? Hell yeah, man. So now I'm doing that. I'm like scouting these guys and bringing them in, and I bring these guys and they're all nervous and they're scared and shit. And then you watch guys like crush and have sets that just never would have expected it. And it turned into this thing where like now I'm like bringing vanfuls of comics down to Pendleton and doing these shows. And it's for the first 10 shows I do, it's like this whirlwind of like, I can't believe this is happening. These crowds are the greatest crowds in the world. I'm bringing my friends. This is so exciting. And it was really just about me and the stage time and the fun and my friends having fun. And it was like, wow, this is incredible. I cannot believe this is happening. And then it became like, I had like leveled off a little bit, where I was paying attention and listening to like Marines after shows that come to me and be like, man, we thought this was going to be
mandatory
like
fun.
And they're like, this was awesome, man. And like having leadership come up to me and be like, yo, man, like these guys had like a rough week out here, and you brought some
What a great idea. And let me tell you, man, the Marine crowd the military crowd in general is not an easy one. I mean, because it's extremely diverse, right? It's like where everyone comes from, socioeconomic, race, whatever background, and it's extremely, so you can't narrow down. You can narrow down, I think, to an idea of, camaraderie or like shared suffering. I was at a very large venue relatively recently on base, and there was a comic that came out there, and I won't mention his name, but this dude straight up melted down. Like, it was one of the most cringeworthy performances I had seen.
That's
he was
rough.
extremely nervous, and this is like a guy on Netflix kind of big, and like melted down. Was not a good show. A couple of chuckles, and then also didn't understand the nuance of the military, so really couldn't connect with a whole bunch. So there was not a lot of connection there. After he was an opener for whatever this thing was, then like the colors comes out and whatever, and so like now we're in the formal event of this thing, and during the national anthem he's sitting down on his cell phone, and like the entire crowd is standing up, and I'm a few rows back, and then like a normal Marine, I kick into being a Marine. I was like, hey, stand the fuck up, right? It like pops up, right?
Oh, man.
And like he left moments later, because again, like, I don't know the guy, but he doesn't know me, but he just didn't understand our own culture and the things that we hold, like, hey, there's certain things you just don't do, or the ability to connect with the crowd. And it was a large number of Marines, and it was unfortunate to like, as a human, I felt bad for this guy because he could tell his head was low. He had a bad set.
Damn, that's rough. It's so crazy to me too, because I forget I've been doing it so long, and they're my demographic. So, but like I bring comics out, and I forget that like this is a really big deal, like a really, really big deal for you to be like new and unknown and just a hungry young comic, and to get to do 10 minutes in front of a bunch of Marines. And I forget that like guys are scared.
Yeah,
like,
and the access,
public speaking, having to be funny, doing it in front of the military.
Correct.
Holy.
And you provide this level of access that most people don't have. Nobody in your industry can reach out to a random unit and say, hey, after you guys go through 2 weeks of like super terrible training, right? Name the place and environment, have us on the back end. We'll be there and kind of, have a good time before a mess night starts or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
before transpo picks you up.
Yeah, or while you're waiting for transpo, which is
Yeah.
always late, by the way, right? So I think that like you have an incredibly cool niche, and to provide that access to these guys, man. Continue. I want to hear more.
Yeah. So I'm bringing these guys out, and I start to get a little more like clarity, and the excitement doesn't wear away, but I'm paying more attention to the Marines and what's happening, and leadership's coming up to me, and I've had like leaders come to me and be like, "Hey, you see those two Marines right there? Those guys had a problem this week. Those guys were at each other's throats. Look at them now. Like you been telling me like, yo, you guys did that." And just like, I'm like, oh, like it's like becoming like this bigger thing. And right around this time in 2019, I went to Scotland for a big festival, fringe festival out there. And I was supposed to go and like do another big show after, and I didn't end up going. I had some money left over, and I was like, I know what I could do with this money. I could turn this into a nonprofit. I could like turn this into a 501c3, because it was never about like making money, but it could be, I could make it like this bigger thing where we have like a mission, and it's more of like it has like a direction, it's not just about, it'll always be punk rock, but it's not just about the stage time and having fun. Like we're kind of affecting these guys, and I think people can get behind that, and maybe I won't have to pay for these vans and this gas anymore. And
right.
We can get donations.
You can put some structure behind it,
right,
and like bring up the whole production level a little bit as well.
Yes. Filed for it. Got approved in like April of 2020. The country shut down. So like I'm cold calling. I got this big spreadsheet of companies. I'm like, hey, this is what we are. We're doing. People like the world is over. The country shut down. We don't have any money. We're going out of business. Terrible way to launch. But fast forward, about a year or so later, I do a show for Irreverent Warriors down here in Oceanside, and I meet the CEO of Vet TV. And they like me, and they're like, dude, we love what you're up to. They're like, would you want to shoot and produce a couple of comedy specials for us? We could put on our platform, and we'd pay the nonprofit. I was like, absolutely, let's do it.
Yes, please.
And I did, and it wasn't a whole lot of money, but it was enough that like, I don't have to pay for the van anymore. I don't have to pay for gas anymore. Our website's paid for. Sometimes after a show, between like, sometimes we get donations and take the comics out and do, we go to like In-N-Out after a show, at least feed them. And now like I've even done show, we got, every once in a while, a unit will hit us up that has like money for a budget, and they love what we're doing. They go, no, we're going to pay you, which is like, great. That's what we'd like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of effort and value, and we've been doing this a long time, and there's quality. So there's definitely a dollar value on all of this.
I'm tired of eating MRE pound cake for dinner.
And like we've done some really great shows. That what's funny is the Marine Corps always takes, usually not always. The first time I did a show that they paid us, took them 10 months to pay me. Luckily, I had money in the bank, so I had paid my comic and my photographer that I brought out. But I have started to get some shows that pay through them. But we turn to a nonprofit, and it starts to become like, it really, in the past like few years, it's really started to like change my brain about what's happening, because it again started out as stage time fun, and then it became this thing where like, yo, we are legit boosting morale, building camaraderie, promoting troop welfare, like straight out of Marine Corps like leadership principles. Like we are building these guys up. Now I realize too, because I'm bringing like such a diverse group of comics from Hollywood, I'm seeing other things happening, and we're hanging out after shows with these guys, and I'm watching Marines talk to comics, and I realize like, because of the demographic, because these guys are 17 to 25. I always talk about it in the beginning of the show. Like I have this pre-show spiel that I go through, and I go, who's been to a comedy club? 90% of them never been to a comedy club. And I forget, because I'm like absorbed in this shit my whole life. And stand-up's bigger now than it's ever been. But most people ain't watching stand-up. Most people don't care. That's not on their radar. I'm exposing these guys to comedy, stand-up for their first time.
Yeah.
And I'm exposing them to like different archetypes of people. Like I bring gay comics out, black comics, trans comics, doesn't matter. You just need to be funny.
Yeah. That's the requirement.
And I'm watching these Marines have these moments after shows where they walk up to these guys and go, yo, I've never met a trans person. Like, you're funny as like that was crazy. Like,
it's taking the politics out of it and making it like a human story, right?
Yeah. And watching guys realize like, yo, I never thought that I would have this type of a reaction to somebody from your background. I never thought someone who was gay could talk about the things that you just talked about and make them funny. I didn't know that it was okay to laugh at these things. and just watching and realizing that, and that's what it is. It's art. It's called, like, I'm exposing these young people to culture and, like, in a way, like, broadening their perspective on human, and, like, that's like super powerful. I never saw that coming.
Like,
it's like, we're just up
did
here
not plan that one out.
just up here to talk about my, you know what I mean? Like, that was not the plan. So it's like really grown into this, like, this full blown, like experience for not just me and the comics, the Marines, and for, like, young people that are, like, in today's world trying to navigate a lot of weird that's going on at a time where everybody's, like, super divided, and there's a lot of shit trying to make us all feel like we're alone, and that nobody, that's the other. It's like, no, actually we all laugh about the same shit, and what you think is unique to you, this person's actually dealing with it too. And it's how weird is it when they got to deal with it, you know? And now I'm in this place where I'm, you know, I in my career in general as a stand-up, I'm like, I'm trying to focus, refocus. COVID, like, so much stuff up, man. This country, a lot of people, I've fucked up a lot of momentum I had, and coming back after COVID, I've been building things up, and things have been going good. And when I look at, like, what I have and what I can do and how I can, like, what my career is going to be, legacy is, like, a really strong word, but, like, what is the thing that I can, like, really lean into and is going to be my thing? It is these military shows. And I'm now, like, really trying to figure out a way, because the only way we get these shows is some company commander, somebody gets a letter and they invite us out, or somebody who was in a unit we did a show with moves units and recommends us. That's basically how we're getting them. I'm trying to spread the word. So a couple months ago, I was like, I'm going to do a podcast run. I'm going to try and I made a list, use ChatGPT. I was like, give me a list of military first responder podcasts, because that's another thing too. I realized, I'm like, it's not just military. Like, all these guys are getting out of the military and they go into this first responder community, and they have events and company parties, or there's an association that does the once a year they get together and they're looking for entertainment. It's like, we could come out and do that too. People don't know about us. So I'm just trying to spread the word. One, like, first step, square one, everything is just shows. If you got an event going on, we'll come out, work with any size budget, you know, it doesn't matter. A lot of times we still come out for free, especially if you got active duty on the base, do free shows. But that's step one. And step two is, like, in the beginning, I got, like, why I couldn't, like, find funding or donors. It's like, it was just like an idea, and I'm doing this and it's loose. But it's like, now we have, like, a proven track record. Like, I've been doing this.
I saw the number on your website, the number of, like, like, letters of appreciation from the types of commands, the numbers of commands that you have on there. Like, you're making a real impact, and these guys really show that.
The personal stock is there, and now I just need people to know about us, because I know for a fact it's not even like, oh, I really want this and wouldn't it be great? No, there are people out there that are, what do they call them? Like, philanthropists and people that are looking for cool things and impactful things that they can, like, take their resources, not even money, but just resources as well, and connections, and connect us to more people and get us more shows, donations, sponsors, all that. I want to make that happen. And the whole marketplace now is, it's podcasts. You got to come on podcasts and talk about it, man. And that's where I'm at now. And that's kind of like the end of the timeline. Here I am.
Dude, that's fantastic. What I noticed, and I think is really cool, is you mentioned first responders, right? I noticed that I deal a lot with firefighters or paramedics or police officers, or law enforcement officers, and I talk with them, and they have a shared sense of community in their own space. A lot of times very much a gallows sense of humor as well, because they have to deal with a lot of trauma, a lot of, like, real life stuff that a lot of people don't. And the common denominator that I find behind any service organization is sacrifice. They're sacrificing their time, their personal comforts, whatever that may be. And a lot of times their sacrifice is, they feel kind of isolated. They feel kind of lonely, and they can't find joy. And so when you have something, when you talk about bringing art or diversity or whatever this is, and you have these guys who just went through 2 weeks of a cold weather package, and their lives have been miserable forever, you can come out for a little bit and just make their lives a little bit better for an hour or two, and let them know, that they're valued, that you see them, right? And then that there are other people out there who have chewed the same dirt and who are just wanting to make their lives a little bit better. Dude, I am so like over the moon that you're able to do this. I've got a ton of contacts that I want to put you in contact with to help spread this message, and continue to keep it going. But with that, what I'd probably like to do is let people know how to find you, your websites and social medias and stuff like that.
Yeah, the website, it's a long name. A couple people told me like, man, you gotta shorten that up. And it's funny, I bought a couple other domains. Like if you go to like USMC Comedy, Marine Comedy, like that, it all goes right back to rapidfirecomedytour.org. But yeah, it's rapidfirecomedytour.org. You find us on there. It's got all the info. If you're an Instagram person, it's the same thing on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Michael THE Angelo, so it's Michael the Angelo. Find all my stuff on there. Yeah, that's it. The Rapid Fire website's the main hub. Go on there, check us out, read up. You got about section. You see the letters and photos. We got some post-show interviews and people talking, crazy crowd shots. It's awesome. It's nice that website is such a nightmare, and I finally, like, it took a couple years, but I finally got like a nice website together that helps people understand that it's awesome.
Absolutely. And we'll put all the socials and the links to the website in the description of the YouTube video as well. But with that, I'd like to thank you for coming out and sitting down with us for the afternoon and having this conversation. It's really unique to bring a different type of combat story that comes out and says, hey, you know, what I love being able to provide people is this chance at success, recognizing that the cards that they were dealt aren't the cards they always have to play with, that they can change them, that they can change the trajectory of their lives. And then with that, I'd like to leave the last word to you, to anything that you'd like to say to the crowd or family or friends or shout outs that belongs to you.
Man, the last word. I love this, man, and I feel so grateful to have found the audience in the military, and I never would have saw it coming. You know, when I joined, I was just trying to save my own life, and now here I am, like, making it my life. Never saw that coming.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming by, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a real fun interview with you, and I look forward to putting this thing up and helping Rapid Fire Comedy Tour grow a little bit more.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.